Hello and welcome back to the Watford Way. Now, before we get into the video, I have to say I'm not expecting many people to watch this because the game was so boring. Of course, I am talking about Watford 0, Preston 0. Another 0-0 draw with Preston this season. Obviously, when we travelled to their place earlier in the season, that ended 0-0 as well. And the same result occurred at Vicarage Road. And for me, it was probably one of the most boring games I've ever witnessed in my entire life. The weather was awful, the stadium atmosphere was awful, the players didn't turn up, and all round the day just wasn't very entertaining. The team news was Daniel Batman in goal as per usual. Craig Cathcart makes a return into the team at right back with Ryan Porteous and Wesley Hoots in central defence with James Morris at left back. We had the midfield two of Imran Louza and Hamza Chowdhury with Ismail Assar, Joao Pedro, Ken Sema and Henrique Arouge making up the attack for Watford. Joao Pedro played more of a 10. Ismail Assar and Ken Sema were the wide players. And in the first half, Arouge played down the middle. It just wasn't very entertaining. There's literally nothing for me to talk about apart from the second half, where it did get a little bit more positive, because literally nothing happened. I think we maybe had one good opportunity in the second half that come through Ismail Assar, a shot just wide. I think Joao Pedro may have challenged the goalkeeper at one point as well. But apart from that, it was, again, a very concerning performance for Watford. And for me, the biggest talking point from this game wasn't necessarily the result and how he played. It was more focusing on the future of Slaven Bilic as Watford manager, because if you check social media after the game, I would probably argue between 80 and 90% of the Watford fan base were calling for Slaven Bilic to leave Watford. And I believe, actually, I've backed Slaven Bilic through the entirety of his time here. But even yesterday for me, I found the performance to be indefensible, to be honest. And I'm usually like the most positive guy out there, but the performance itself, the players we have available, you compare the quality and experience of the players we have compared to Preston North End. You expect us to win, and you at least expect us to create opportunities and clear-cut opportunities at that, and we failed to do so yesterday. I think the only bright spark for me was probably the introduction second half of Yassir Espria. I thought he looked really bright. Slaven Bilic said after the game, the reason he hasn't been playing in recent weeks is because he's actually been quite poor in training, which I found to be quite an interesting insight. Slaven Bilic obviously not happy with what he's seen in training, but for me, when Espria came on, he made a superb impact. I mean, some of the runs he made, the passing, instantly he had a couple of shots on goal as well. I think that was the most frustrating thing for me yesterday. Just the lack of shots on target, the lack of, shots to challenge the Preston goalkeeper. When you get an eye on goal, just have a shot. Anything can happen, the deflection. In the West Brom game a few weeks ago, we saw Ken Sema had his shot deflected, into the West Brom goal. So, when you get the opportunity, have a shot. And I feel like with this Watford team at the moment, we're almost trying to walk the ball into the goal. Whereas when we get the opportunity to shoot on goal, maybe just for that half second, half yard, have a shot, see what happens. And it's just, really frustrating for me. Obviously, I just discussed the future of Slaven Bilic. We've yet to hear from Watford, whether he's going to, leave or go. But Andrew French did interview Slaven Bilic after the game. Obviously, Andrew French works for the Watford Observer, and Bilic basically said he's not heard anything from Gino Pozzo. He's just going to continue working and see what happens. So Slaven Bilic, in his eyes, is safe in his position. For me personally, I know people are frustrated after yesterday's performance, and it was extremely poor. There's no benefit for me to sack in Slaven Bilic currently. I don't know who you would bring in personally. I've got no names in my mind. Maybe someone like a Ralph Hasenhüttl, but again, is that a more short-term appointment? I think in the summer, Watford made the right appointment in bringing Rob Edwards in as a long-term vision. However, that long-term vision lasted 10 games before we sacked him, and look at what he's doing at Luton Town at the moment. So I'll be interested to see how the next few weeks progress. I do think at some point Slaven Bilic will leave Watford, whether it be now, next week, or come the end of the season. I do think currently we just need a little little bit of stability, and hopefully, you know, we can get the 3 points against QPR next weekend, which I am attending, by the way, so I'm very much looking forward to that game. Let me know your thoughts on the Preston game in the comments section down below. My man of the match, just for the 45 minutes he played, would be Yassir Asprilla. Superb performance from him in the second half, and I'll definitely look to start him in the next game. And apart from that, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again very, very soon. Bye-bye.